This homework assignment is page 41, number 10. And remember that if you haven't already done the assignment, that you need to turn the video off and try to do as much as you can, and then turn it on and watch and check your answers. Remember to listen to, because I might ask you to write something down that I didn't write down, and so if you're going to get full credit for watching the video, you need to make sure you're listening carefully. Okay, question number 1. It says, for each plan, how much money is owed after 10 weeks? And your two plans are a fixed weekly payment of $10.80 and a $6 per week plus an initial payment of $120. You're trying to pay off a $270 skateboard. So for plan 1, if you took 12 weeks and you multiplied by the amount of money you're paying per week, then you'd get $129.60. That's how much you've paid so far. Your total cost for the skateboard is $270. So now you'd take $270 and you'd subtract the amount of money that you paid after 12 weeks at $10.80 a week, and that'd give you $140.40. So that's how much you still owe after that amount of time. This is how much you've already paid off after 12 weeks. For the same question, question A, if you 12 weeks and you paid $6 per week plus your initial payment of $120, you do 12 times 6 and then add to that answer 120, and that gives you $192. So on plan 2, after 12 weeks, you paid off $192. And if you do 270 minus $192, $192, you'd have $78 left. So after 12 weeks, you owe less money on plan B, or the second plan, than you do on the first plan, because you made that big initial payment of $120. So $140.40 left, 78 left. So I want you to go ahead and add labels to the work you did. If you didn't show the work that you did, if you just wrote 129 and then 270 minus $129.60 equals 140, I want you to go back and show your work. I want you to label the 12, that's the number of weeks. I want you to label the 1080, that's the payment per week. I want you to do the same thing on plan 2. I want you to label the 12 weeks. I want you to label the 6, that's the amount you pay per week, and I want you to label the 120, that's the initial payment you make at 0 weeks. Question B. This one is asking you which plan requires the least number of weeks to pay for the skateboard. Explain. One way you could do this is you could put both equations into a graphing calculator, and you could look for where you reached $270, but I used just solving an equation to do that. So the 270 is the total cost for the skateboard, and this is the amount I pay per week, and this is the number of weeks. I'm trying to solve for x. This is a very simple one-step equation. It's a multiplication equation. To undo multiplication and get the variable x by itself, you have to divide. So down here you'll see I divided by 1080 here. 1080 divided by 1080 is 1. And then 1 times x is equal to x, just like 1 times 5 is 5 and 1 times 2 is 2, and so on. So I don't write the 1. Over here, 270 divided by 1080 is equal to 25. So on plan 1, it would take 25 weeks to pay off the skateboard. So if you put the equation into your graphing calculator and you scroll down to 25 weeks, you'd see that $270 was reached on plan 1. I'm going to use the same strategy, solving an equation, to solve for plan 2. So 270 is my total cost. I'm trying to find the number of weeks. 6 times the number of weeks, that's how much I pay per week, plus 120. This time, this is a two-step equation, so I have to get rid of the addition and subtraction first. The way to get rid of 120 is subtract 120 on both sides. 120 minus 120 is 0. When you take away the 120 on both sides, 270 minus 120 is 150, and 6x plus 120 minus 120 is equal to 6x. Now this is a simple one-step a multiplication equation, just like this one was up here. And if I divide by 6 on both sides, x is equal to 25. That means for both plans, it's going to take exactly 25 weeks to pay off the $270 skateboard. Question C asks me what the equations are for both. And I do want you to have labels on everything. I want your labels to be like mine. I even want you to include the +0 on this one, although it normally would not be necessary, because it allows you to label the y-intercept, and the y-intercept is a vocab word that I want to make sure you know. So you need to have something for the total cost. You don't have to use a P, you can use something else if you wish. You can use a Y if you want to, I don't care. But you need to label that, it's the total payment made, and it's also the dependent variable. That's a vocab word you need. And then over here, the 1080 is the amount you pay per week, and you need to label that as amount paid per week, but also the slope, and also coefficient, because those are two words that we had last week that I really want you to know when you look at this number that's in front of the variable. And then last, that +0, that's my y-intercept. At 0 weeks, you make no payment. There's no initial payment on this plan. And then for the W, that's the number of weeks, and it's your independent variable. It goes on the x-axis. Now for the second plan, it's C. It should have been P. I'm not sure why I did that. I'm going to actually change that, because if you use a P on the first equation, you should use a P on the second. If you use a Y on the first equation in this spot, you should use a Y on the second equation, because it stands for the same thing. It stands for the total payment made, and it's the dependent variable. And again, it has to be labeled. The 120 is the y-intercept. That's at 0 weeks, you make that initial payment of $120. And then the 6 is the payment per week, the slope, the coefficient, and the W is the number of weeks, the independent variable. Question D says, how would A through C change if the skateboard didn't cost $270, instead it costs more, it costs $355. So if the skateboard costs $355, it means that on the first plan, when you did 12 times 1080 and you got 129.60, instead of doing 270 minus 129.60, you're going to do 355 minus 129.60, which is you have $225.40 left to pay off on plan 1 if the skateboard now costs $355. And on plan 2, where you pay $6 a week, but you have initial payment of $120, and you multiply that by 12, well, this time you're doing 355 minus 192. That's how much you paid off after 12 weeks, meaning you have $163 left after 12 weeks to still pay if you're using plan 2. For question B, the question is asking how much will you have paid off in 12 weeks? Wait, no, it didn't. It said, when will the skateboard be paid off? Well, for plan 1, if you set up the equation, total cost of the skateboard is equal to 12 times the number of weeks, and you divide by 12 on both sides to get the variable x by itself, it's going to be 29.58, which means it's going to take 30 weeks to pay the skateboard off. On the second plan, if the skateboard costs $355, this time there's an initial payment and you're only paying $6 per week. When you solve this equation for the number of weeks, you subtract 120 on both sides. That gives you 235 equals 6x. Now you divide by 6 on both sides, and x is equal to 39.17. It was 0.1666666, I rounded. That means it's going to take you 40 weeks to pay off if it costs $355. For C, the equations wouldn't change at all, because the equations don't show what the total thing is. That's for finding the total payment. So it's going to be the exact same equations that you had. Okay, that's it on the homework assignment, and have a good night, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye, guys.